Yes, sir, it is your boy KB, the boss from ShifterMagazine.com, here with another episode of Shifter TV Talk. Now, yesterday we talked about the season 5 premiere of CW's All-American, which was absolutely amazing. And so today we're talking about the season 5 premiere of Sistas from BET, one of my favorite shows right now. And so, yeah, we're going to dive into it. Now, if you're new to Shifter TV Talk, what we'd like to do is go into the ups and the downs from every single episode. And so we're going to be talking about the ups and downs from the season 5 premiere. So let's get right into it. So the first down from yesterday's episode, yesterday's premiere, was no Maurice. Big time down. Where was Maurice in the premiere? Now we can't get Maurice on every single episode of Sistas, but he really is the comic relief. And after months of not having Sistas, it would have been nice after that long wait to get some scenes with Maurice, but there wasn't even one on the premiere. And so that was definitely something that was a little bit of a down for me personally, is, just not having Maurice there. Because after months of waiting for Sistas to start back, we needed a little bit of Maurice, man. We needed a little bit of Maurice in our lives. And so that was the first down. And the second down was no Eva Marcille. And they kind of hinted at this whole crossover between all the Queen's men and Sistas. Eva Marcille's character being the cousin of Fatima, but we didn't get that during yesterday's episode, and so that was a little bit of a letdown, because they had her in all the marketing materials, and so not having Eva Marcille show up was a little bit of a down on yesterday's episode. And the last down comes from my personal arch nemesis, Aaron. Now, I don't know if you guys have followed my written recaps from last season. I don't like Aaron. Aaron's my least favorite character. Not, I think he's just corny. I think he's a simp. So for me, Aaron is he's a whole down unto himself, Aaron. End of last season, the season finale of season 4, he had some likable moments where you're like, okay, I think I might like him. And he kind of, throughout the premiere, he kind of had that as well. Like, I was starting to think, okay, like, are we gonna have a whole episode where we're actually liking Aaron? But then there came a moment. Now, the moment where I stopped liking Aaron during the premiere is when he came and showed up to the salon, which was like, whatever, he showed up at the salon. He shows up at the salon a lot because he's a little bit clingy. But for me, it was just his conversation with Andi, where he started to just, he was asking where she is and whatnot, but then we got into a conversation about Gary. And after everything that Gary has done, like friggin' having a telescope outside of his window spying on Andi, he had the nerve to kind of defend Gary and to be like, if basically trying to say, give him a chance, and if you knew his past, you know why he's doing the things that he's doing. Trying to stand up for Gary after everything that Gary has done to Andi, like almost killed the girl, man, almost suffocated the girl to death. And so for me, that was a big time down. I'm like, listen, Aaron, you should not be defending Gary in this moment after everything he's done. So you're a big down right there. But for me personally, those are all the downs that I saw in the season 5 premiere. And I know some people didn't like the premiere, my wife included. My wife is a big Sistas fan and didn't necessarily like the premiere. And so I imagine there's other people out there as well who just didn't like the premiere as well. I actually liked it. And I think there was a lot of downs. Those were the downs that I personally found. But I found there was a lot more ups. Now, even though Aaron hasn't necessarily grown on me, some of the other characters that I didn't like grew on me in this premiere. You look at Karen. Like, Karen was actually a good character. Like, the first in the premiere, she was a really good character, right? And if you've been watching, she had some bleeding happening with the baby, and there's whole questions right now: is the baby okay? All that kind of stuff. And so I just found that in the first episode, like, she just was like, I found myself rooting for Karen. I found myself wanting her to win. Whereas before, I was just like super annoyed with her. Like, in last season, like, she was one of the least likable characters. She was worthless. She was useless. She was super clingy. Couldn't get the picture that things were over with Zach. And I just found with this episode, she really kind of like, I felt like she was really brought back to reality after kind of escaping reality for so long and being oblivious and not wanting to embrace the truth. I think she finally embraced the truth and really kind of was brought back down to reality in this episode. So I thought that was actually really good for her. She just was a character that I found myself just reading for in this particular episode. And I really feel when it comes to Zach, I don't know, I really feel like she got the picture that it's over. I think she finally got it, especially talking to her mother and her mother kind of sharing her own story about, you know, her relationship with Karen's father. And you realize they have like this big similar, their stories were parallel. And I really felt like the mom's story gave Karen a little bit of closure when it comes to Zach. And so I really feel like I'm feeling like this season, Karen is going to make a turn. I really feel like my bold prediction is that Karen is actually going to become, I think she's going to become one of the more likable characters in this season. I think she's going to make the full turn. I think she's going to accept the closure. And I feel like she's going to grow. Like, I feel like we're going to get some growth from Karen this season. I do feel like Karen and Aaron are going to end up together and actually be very happy. That's my other bold prediction. I feel like Karen and Aaron are going to end up together and they're going to actually be one of the better couples on the show. I think so. I think Aaron is actually going to get the girl. And she's going to grow and mature. And I think we start to see that growth and maturity from her in the premiere. So Karen, boom, you went from being a down last season to being an up this season. And I look forward to seeing what happens with you. Calvin is also an up. Calvin was another one of my least favorite characters. You know, as a light-skinned dude, I had issues with the light-skinned male characters on the show. Between Aaron and Calvin, I'm like, yo, these light-skinned dudes are giving us a bad name. But yo, Calvin was actually good in the premiere. You know, previously last season, he had moments where he like came across as being like super like oblivious and naive, almost like I don't say dumb blonde, but he's not blonde, but he had those dumb blonde vibes. Where he was really just out of the loop, oblivious, like didn't know what was going on around him. But you know, in this episode, he's actually like, hey, he comes into the house and he's like telling Q, like, I'm on to you, you're up to something. And just the fact that he was finally cluing in and actually not being oblivious and not being dumb and all that kind of stuff, and really was just like zoning in on the fact that something's happening here. For me, it's like, okay, they're making him, he just came across as smarter. And I'm like, you know what, I like that. I feel like the character is evolving. I feel like the character is growing. So big thumb up or big up for Calvin in this episode, and hopefully we get to see more growth, a less dumb, a less stupid, a less oblivious Calvin in season 5. Another character I hated, another character I didn't like was Pam. Pam was always so nosy, man. Pam is annoying. Like, holy crap. Like, I would never want to have a friend like Pam. I would never want to have what do you call it? Not coworker, but an employee like Pam. Like, Pam is nosy as hell. But I found them during this episode. I was like, man, like Pam, look at Pam showing growth. Look at Pam evolving. Like, it's the fact that she went from being somebody who could never keep Karen's business to now actually being able to keep her business, like to actually be able to keep a secret. Even when Andy and Aaron come into the salon, they want to know what's happening. Like she was just, she was able to be tight-lipped with with Karen's business. But, amazing. And even just her tying in the doctor's office with Karen, like she was just a different person. Like she was caring, she was supportive, all that kind of stuff. And it's like, man, like I felt like it saw a different side of Pam. She looks like she's growing and she's evolving as a person. So that for me is a big up. And just again, all these different characters. There's so many characters that I feel on this episode just showed a level of maturity. So for me, it's like, yes, the characters are evolving. Boom, up. Zatima, she had a good moment. Zach, you can literally see, like, I feel like, again, Zach is another character that is maturing and evolving. And they show it just, even the fact that he has the beard, which I think carries over from the actual Zatima show, but he has the beard now. And I think it's just a physical representation of the fact that he is now maturing. it felt like for a long time he was still kind of figuring things out. He was still kind of just, you're waiting for the shoe to drop with him, like one day his secret's gonna come out or something like that, and now it just feels like there's a stability and a manhood to Zach. A stability and a manhood to Zach that for me is just like I love seeing it. He just looks like a man. In past seasons, he looked like a boy, that was trying to be a man. Whereas now it's like you look at him, it's like Zach is a man. He is a grown ass man, and I love it. I love seeing that growth, the growth in his character. It was very good. And just he looks happier, man. He comes into the law office, Hayden is mouthing off him. Well, he's happy, man. I'm happy. Like he's not even engaging with Hayden. He's not even engaging with Hayden. He's like, bro, I'm smiling. I'm happy. I'm in love. I don't have time for your crap. Instead of punching him in the face, he's just like, bro, let me let it slide, because I'm happy. I'm good. I'm in love with my woman. He just showed a level-headedness, maturity. Boom, love that. Up when it comes to the development of his character. And also too, just they shared a good moment, him and Fatima. They leave the law office, he takes them to the place where they first met, and they shared a good moment. They shared a beautiful moment. I personally thought a marriage proposal was coming. He was talking about things, I'm like, yo, this man is about to propose. I thought this man is about to propose to Fatima on the premiere, and that didn't happen, which some people would consider a down, because they kind of strung us along thinking that some marriage proposal was coming. But it was just a good moment. I really loved the moment that they shared. Again, just showed the growth and maturity of Zach. And it was a good moment. So the good Fatima moment, boom, up. And the last up for me, the last up for me, big time up, was the interaction between Andi and Gary. I loved it. The interaction between Andi and Gary, like it started off being like friggin' like a nuclear war. Like you think, okay, this thing's about to pop up. Like, oh my gosh, like when Hayden and Gary and Andi and Fatima are in the office together, you think, yo, this is about to be like World War III. And it was just like, it was a mess of a moment. But getting Fatima to leave the room, getting Hayden to leave the room, that scene ended up being such a great scene. Just between Gary and Andi one-on-one, great scene. And really, like, that scene was like the most healthy interaction I think we've ever seen from those two characters. The most healthy interaction, the most healthy conversation. It was a great scene. When they ended that scene of them saying, it was like, you realize the reason why Gary was doing what he was doing is because he didn't want to let go. He realized it was over and didn't want to let go. And both of them they didn't want to let go. They didn't want to admit that it was over. And in that moment, when they finally admit that it's over, it was, I don't know what closure is beautiful. Like, a lot of times relationships ending is not a good thing. But in that moment, it was like, man, like the closure that they got after all these seasons of them like back and forth, and it's like it is fine. At least I think so. At least what we're thinking is that it's finally over. Although the scenes for the next episode may say otherwise, but in that particular moment, I was like, man, the closure was beautiful. The maturity that you saw from those was, and if you've ever been in those situations where a relationship is ending, it's like you realize you still love each other, but you just can't be together, and you're crying because you're like, I love you, but it's like, but you realize this is not working. This cannot work. It's not good for either of us. Those moments are amazing, and they captured it well. I love the maturity and the healthiness of that conversation and that interaction. I left that scene feeling like, man, I respect both of these characters, man. So that's it. Big time up. Andi and Gary, that scene I thought was great. At first I didn't like it, actually, because of the whole crocodile tears that Andi was crying, and it seemed she's trying to manipulate him. And I know some women do that stuff where they use their tears to manipulate men. So the early part where she was crying these crocodiles or the alligator tears, whatever the saying is, when she was just crying, I was like, she's trying to manipulate him. That's some things that women do. But by the end of the conversation, I was like, yo, I respect these two characters. They got the closure. I still think Andi manipulated him a little bit, but I love the health of that conversation. Boom, up. And the last up, which I didn't even have on my list, but just came back to my mind, Preston and Danny. Another couple, listen, they have to end up together. Clearly they love each other. They have to end up together. if they don't end up together, then I would be very surprised. But just that last little part there of, Preston giving her a little bit of an ultimatum. It's like, this is the time of decision. You've been fighting this at Danny for so long. You've been fighting the way you feel about this man, and finally it's coming to a head. You have to make a decision. I liked it. It was a little bit of a tease. It would be nice to kind of see a bit more of that story in the premiere. But I just like the brief part that we got from Preston and Danny. I liked it. It's an up, and I can't wait to see what she decides. I'm going to other side note too. It's like, man, all the guys on the show are such nice guys. Sometimes it's a little bit annoying, but Preston's such a nice guy. Zach is a nice guy. Actually, Gary's not a nice guy. Aaron's a nice guy. Hayden's not a nice guy. But when it comes to the main kind of main male characters, all such nice guys. Sometimes pushovers, but what can you do? But anyway, those are my ups and my downs from the season 5 premiere of Tyler Perry / BET's Sistas. I liked it. If you didn't like it, that's your problem. But I liked the premiere. And so if there are any ups and downs that you saw in the premiere episode that you want to, if you want to weigh in with your ups and downs in the comments, let me know what were your ups and your downs from the season 5 premiere of Sistas. If you like our written recaps, we do have one from the season 5 premiere over at shiftermagazine.com, so you can go check that out and let me know what you think. Once again, it is your boy Kevin Bourne, also known as KB the Boss from shiftermagazine.com. See you next week. I'm out. Peace.